Yeah, man. What I
That's
was
hot
saying,
shit
man.
right there,
You know what I'm
man.
saying? So we gonna do?
We want you to be an activist. And don't take our word for it. Look that shit up. Pulley.
Here.
You create them other, but it also just simplifies things, and that's what I be saying about the religion, like super simplified things, good, bad,
Right.
evil, good, evil, or whatever, boy, girl, like really simple dynamics, black, white, you know what I'm
Black, white
saying,
thinking.
on, off, so, but that's not reality, right? Reality is not as simple as that. And then it's really, like I said before, about the boxes. You can't put people in the boxes. So talk about that before you go, for the audience. You know what I'm saying? Because in the other episode, we touched on it a bit. We're talking about gender fluidity, because and Pat was asking questions about it. So hopefully he'll watch the show and check it out, because when he's not here, he usually watches the show. So the gender fluidity thing, the idea of putting people in the box of left, right, boy, girl, or whatever, masculine, feminine, and to explain for the audience, because I think a lot of people don't really understand, you know what I'm saying, how that works. So, because see, I've taken some of the classes at U of H, gender studies and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I have a book. After Love is what it's called. It's Queer Intimacy and Erotic Economies in Post-COVID Cuba. Basically, they were talking about how they get taken advantage of. You know what I'm saying? Sex trafficked and stuff like
Right.
that. Because what happens is, whenever you live in a community where you are like othering gay people, then it puts them in a position where they can more likely to take advantage of. They can't go to the
Right. They're
police and all
vulnerable.
kinds of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, they're more vulnerable. So I saw a clip in a video where it was a guy, and he said that he got raped, and he told the police, and they arrested him, and he sat down for some years. And he's like, that's the last time I go to the police for help. And like, imagine how sad that is. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
So, what I was saying, that when you live in a community that's creating them, making them others, like, and I compare it to the immigrations, and that's why I say about the border and the women's rights, because you create these other, and therefore it allows people to take advantage of them in this way or another, that makes them more vulnerable.
Mhm.
So explain for the audience about, like, gender fluidity.
Well, what I've come to learn about it, I used to have some really traditional views about it. I used to grow up thinking, that you're boy or girl. And I went through life, and as I grew up, I started to realize there was multiple ways to be me. There's multiple ways to be a female. There's multiple ways to be a woman. There's multiple ways to be a boy. And I realized that because my brother, he would be like, oh, I'm really sad about this. I'm really upset. I don't feel like I can come out about this, or, this thing is upsetting me. I don't feel like I can cry. I don't feel like I can show my emotions, but that's what a man is supposed to be. That's it. And I'm like, I want you to understand that even in ancient African Egyptian societies, that there was a balance of feminine and masculine. And I was like, you can't just go, you have to balance it. You can't just go on one extreme. Bad things happen when you go on either extreme. And I was telling him, there's no one way to be a man. And I know he actually went through this like red pill incel pipeline to, he was like, this is how I was supposed to be a man, blah, blah, blah. And he came to me and he was like, Amina, it's not working. Like, I want to feel like I can be emotional. I want to feel like I can be in tune with myself and be emotionally intelligent and still know what I want and still also have masculine qualities. And so seeing my brother go through that, I was like, man, that's my little brother. Like, it was so amazing to me to see him go through that. And it kind of put in perspective how, even though I'd never like planted that seed in his head before he came to me, he was like, okay, I feel comfortable talking to you about this just because I feel like you're open-minded, and I feel like you can, I feel like you're not going to judge me, or you're not going to see me any type of way. And I was just telling him yesterday about how we need to start seeing other humans as humans and not as this ideal we want them to be. I was specifically talking about parents. I was like, we have to let go of this notion of, I deserve this, I deserve that, I deserve a good parent, I deserve this type of parent, you have to realize that the person that raised you is a human, and they were going through their own shit, and they had to figure it out. And so the more we try empathizing people, just like, with LGBTQ community, the more we empathize them, and the less we're like, oh, no, this is what you are. Here's the box you fit in. The more we start to understand their struggles. And then we understand that they're going through a lot of the similar things we're going through mentally with trying to figure out our identities. So I think, like I said, the human experience is dynamic and fluid. I think these labels make us more comfortable. They make us feel like it attaches something to us, and it makes us feel like, but I've always felt like if anyone can truly be whoever they wanted to be, there's no need for labels. There's no need to put a label on it. There's no need to put a name. We should all come in community, and we should all be able to accept the differences and see someone else's differences. We don't necessarily have to agree with them, but respect their ability to do whatever they want to do. So it was interesting just seeing my brother go through that and try to figure out his own identity and what the world is telling him how to be, and that he was consistently feeling alienated because he felt like he had to be this version of macho masculine. He had to be, you know what I mean? So it's interesting.
It's the theatrics, and I thought that's what you were going to say, but it's like, it's kind of like, you're playing a role, right? And it's the society's pressure, right? Society says men's supposed to act like this and women's supposed to act like this. Men's supposed to dress like this, women's supposed to dress like that.
Right.
Men's supposed to work at these jobs and women's supposed to work at these jobs. So you feel this pressure to play that role so that you can fit into society, so that you won't be ostracized and made into an other. You know what I'm saying? You want to be accepted in the group. So for you to be accepted in the group, then you have to fit into whatever those gender label roles that have been set up already.
Right.
So, and I think that's where people get lost in understanding the idea. You know what I'm saying? And the thing about the masculine and the femininity, and it's like the thing about how, like, a lot of times it comes from your mom, right? I'm not saying your mom, I'm saying people's moms.
Right.
How they are, especially with the boys. Like they tend to be a little softer with the girls on like the gender identities.
Right.
But with the boys, they're a lot more strict. You know what I'm saying? As far as the boys need to they need to pee standing up, and they need to like wear pants or whatever the hell. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
The moms, I think, are the ones a lot of times who are, reinforcing this idea of these gender roles, and also making it hard because, like, people, like you said, not feeling comfortable giving their feelings. Like, men are not supposed to have feelings. They're not supposed to cry. We talked about that in the show one time, where it's like, men, and then they say they look at you're weak. So
right.
You're weak if you cry. Right. So it's like, where does crying, how did we get to the point where crying makes you appear to be weak?
Right.
Having emotions. Where did we get to the point where having emotions make you weak? Identify as weak. And then it also identifies as like feminine, as a woman. So then
right.
it's acceptable for the woman to be emotional, but it's not acceptable for the man to be emotional. Like, right. Where did that come from? You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. And then if you do have a woman, she's feminine, and she identifies as a woman, but she is, maybe she's not as freaking like emotional. You know what I mean? she doesn't really get caught up in her emotions very much. She's really pragmatic and practical. There's plenty of women like that, and people are going to look at that as like masculine features or whatever, masculine
Right,
energy,
right.
when they're just pragmatic and practical, which is, it really has to do with right brain and left brain more than anything, right? Because everybody falls in one or the other as far as that they lean towards, right? Because you got the right brain person who's right. The right brain person is the more organized person, right? They're they're more pragmatic. They're the left brain person is more creative. They're kind of like not as organized. They're more spread out. They think of things in a different way. Like, they don't look at numbers the same way and time and all of that. So, but that's not masculine or feminine at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's what I mean. So everybody has these dynamics of the yin and the yang and the masculine and feminine in them, and everybody falls on
balance it. Right.
I mean,
if any therapist will tell you it's not good to go on any extreme. You have to find a balance. And that's what I encourage in my brother. That's what I talk to people about. I don't believe in this one notion. This is how to be a certain human being. You're alienating people, because I think humans find comfort in conformity. They find comfort in, how do I fit in as much as possible so I don't stick out like a sore thumb? And once they do stick out like a sore thumb, there are some real problems. Like, for example, the men that don't fit in that, here's what I have to do to be a man. I think the suicide rate for men is like 60% right now. 60% out of all suicides, I think, are men. So it's crazy to me that we're seeing the effects of alienating men and saying, you don't have to do this, you don't have to cry, you don't have to show your emotions, and then telling women like, you guys get to do all that stuff, but you guys, it stops there. So
the men are bottling it up inside, and then so they can't never get to show their emotions. So one day they just kill themselves to it's like one final expression of emotion.
Right.
Super sad. Super, super, super sad. Yep, that's the world we live in. It's really horrible, because we talk about the patriarchy all the time and how women are created or, considered second-class citizens. But we don't talk about the pressure of men in the patriarchy too. Because they're supposed to be the head of the household. They're supposed to make all the money. They're supposed to pay all the bills. They're supposed to pay whenever you go on dates. They're supposed to buy you a ring. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to have a better job. They're supposed to make good money, So that's pressure on a lot of men too, because a lot of men don't fall in that. And I think in a lot of relationships, that's perfectly fine, right? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with the woman being the one that's making the most money? Can that be the dynamic in the relationship and it work? How come, and then it still doesn't have to be nothing like gay and lesbian type of relationship. And that's another part of it that people get lost in it, because they think it's like they're mixing up the feminine and masculinity with like sexual, because another part of it people get confused in is like where you fall on the feminine and masculinity scale has zero to do with your sexual preference. They're not correlated at all. So, and I think that people think that it is. They think that because I'm kind of feminine, then that means I want men.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's not the case. Like, that not necessarily the case. It could be the case, but not necessarily, because your sexual preference is not the same. And it's the same thing with the gender identity kind of part, because then that's the same thing. They like to put that in the sex as far as related to what they're sexually attracted to. Your gender identity is not related to what your sexual preference is. Right? Yeah, it's hard for me to talk about this with the guys, They don't get this stuff. And then they start making jokes. And
That's one of the main reasons, because my brother felt the same way. So he couldn't necessarily go to my mom about it. I mean, and he didn't have someone in his life being like, hey, dude, you can cry, you can let it out. And I had gone through years of therapy, so I already knew what was up. But it was interesting to like have healed and gone through that, and then you're trying to come for someone else and try to be an advocate and ally for someone else. And I can never teach my brother how to be a man, but I can teach him how to be a decent human being. And I think that's as far as it needs to go. Like, I don't need to teach him how to be a man.
And all the parents should look at their kids that same way. It's like, I'm teaching you how to be a decent human being. Like, whatever the hell you want to like. And really, I think that we should allow them to live their life, like explore their life, and because a lot of parents want their kids to do this or do that or whatever.
They already have an agenda for them since the day they were born.
Like they want them to be this or be that. And I think that you're setting yourself up for disappointment whenever you do that, because, and then like the best way, like I say that, oh, they're creative, man. They're just little humans. That's another thing that people, I think, they treat kids like others. Children are not others. They're just a small human.
Right.
You know?
I literally saw this post. It was like, you guys are so quick to say you want to have a baby, but you're not quick enough to say that are you ready to raise a human? And people don't think about that when having children. They think about the baby stage and it'll be so great. They don't think about what happens when this human starts thinking for itself. And what happens then? And then their world falls apart.
That a lot of parents that's what I was about to say. That a lot of parents lose it. They lose their shit. That's why the whole teenage years be a thing, because now you're battling with your child, because then now they're realizing your bullshit. So that's why I be saying, and I was just having this conversation with someone, that you have to be honest. I watched a movie. Damn it. I don't want to mention it because then I'm going to have to pull it up. But freaking anyways, what I was saying to the other person was, because we were watching this movie, and it was like, the point of the moral of the story of the movie is, don't lie to your kids, because your daughter might show up with a hatchet years later, because that's what happened in the movie. And it's like, God. So, but that's the thing. And it was the mom too. The mom lied and told her daughter all these lies about her dad, and she found out the truth, and she wasn't happy about it. People died. So that's what it is though. So like what I'm saying is, people got to be honest with their children, tell them the truth, treat them like a human. Another part of it is people feel like the child is not ready to understand a lot of things, and I'm like, they're little humans, bro. Like if they're not a baby, like a baby, their brain works, bro. You know what I'm saying?
These kids absorb and understand a lot more than the parents think. And these kids internalize what they hear through the cracks in the door and what they overheard. And parents don't think about that. Kids can be extremely intelligent, and they can see through things, and they can feel when something's not right. And, so.
Yeah, stop thinking these kids are stupid, right, and they're not ready to have these conversations, or they don't understand, because they do, and they are. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of cases, not everybody develops differently. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why you want to communicate with your child often, so that you can know where they're at mentally and what they're ready for and what they're not ready for. You're the parent. You should be able to make that discernment of what they're ready to have a talk about and what they're not. So, but you also have to stop. You're babying yourself is what the parents are doing. And I see it happens all the time. They're making themselves suffer really in a lot of situations by babying. Like, let me give a specific example. Pampers. Okay? Pampers. Specific example of parents making themselves suffer. Child is like 3, 4, 5 years old and still wearing Pampers. You were being lazy and you're babying your child, and you are also making yourself suffer because you got to still change these fucking Pampers, and you have to spend money on fucking Pampers. and that's another thing with the parents, like I say, like they're not ready or whatever, they're not smart enough to do it. And I'll be watching videos online all the time where there's a kid doing some old complex thing and they got to pamper them. So you think your kid could do this thing, but they can't go to the bathroom when they, get the fuck.
Right. They're like stunting their development.
It's what they're doing, and they're also making it harder on themselves because they're paying money for Pampers. They're smelling shit in the baby's Pamper. It's not good for the kid's skin. It's not good for anybody that's in this situation. Everybody is suffering as a result. So what I'm saying is that's just an example, a specific example of how people make themselves suffer because they're kind of like they're really doing it for themselves. Like the same thing with the not having these conversations with the child. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's scary. You know what I'm saying? And what if your child is gay or lesbian or whatever? You know? And now they want to tell you. You want your child to feel comfortable enough to tell you this? You know, if y'all haven't had conversations along these lines, then they're not gonna feel comfortable having this conversation with you. So now they're gonna hide this from you and they're gonna sneak and lie and have a twisted as dark in the closet ass lifestyle, suffering. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure as any parent out there, truthfully, deep down in your heart, you still love your child. It's a piece of you, regardless of what their sexual preference ends up being. You know what I'm saying? You love that child. And so make them feel comfortable.
Yo, what up? Yo, what up, guys? I'm just joining in, so I don't really know what we're talking about, but good to see you.
What's up, Thriller? Well, let me ask you this. You don't have any children. Your siblings have children. Your siblings have children. Let me ask you a question. If one of your nieces or nephews turn out to be gay, or maybe in the future you have a child and that child,
I love them.
Yeah. How would you treat them any different? And what about ages of having conversations with them about it? You know, what about
before
that?
Before I got my bid at Johnny's, I was working in Montrose, bro. And some of the nicest people I met were gay. You know? It's like I do not and as far as religion goes, shunning that was definitely I feel like that's not a godly thing to shun them for being gay, you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's so crazy that they use religion to do this. Because that's a very not Christ-like.
It's more of a man thing to do. It's totally man-made concept, bro.
Yeah. So, what do you think about
be
it?
The alpha, the dominant, beastly man. Oh, he's gay. Oh, God, well, da da da. You know what I mean?
I know you're probably about to go, Mina. Let me ask you one more question. I done kept you a long time. This is the longest you've been on the show. Let me ask you a question. I asked people this question before because I know you're about to go. Listen. So what if you have a child in the future and your child is born with both? Your child is like hermaphrodite.
Intersex?
They have both working parts.
Okay.
Inside and out. And you have to make a decision on their gender, right? This is hypothetical. You decide to make a decision on their gender. And then as they grow up, then they start to feel like they're a man in a woman's body or a woman's in a man's body or whatever, the opposite of the gender that you chose. And, so that's my question. So how do you feel about that? What do you think about that? And also, if the child was born with hermaphrodite, would you choose one or the other?
I wouldn't. So I would only choose if it has anything to do with their health. If sometimes they might end up with deformed parts. Like I don't know. So if they have a part that's not working, like we can figure it out. But other than that, I'm not making. I have to approach this tiny baby as like they're going to be their own human and adult. You have to make your parenting decisions that way. They're going to be their own human. Stop trying to put your ego and what you want from them and what you think they should be. You have to realize this is going to be their own little human, and they're going to grow up and they're going to do their own things. So I wouldn't touch it. I mean, my hands would pretty much be off unless it's a health issue or anything that needs to. But I what do I'm not like God or the universe. What do I look like choosing someone's gender? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I truly believe that anyone can represent themselves any way they want to represent themselves, no matter their genitals, what they identify as, their label, then it is not going to matter to me.
So, but let me ask you this. So what if your husband was like, no, we need to choose a gender?
No, he's not like that. No,
Yo,
so I
can you
mean,
hear me?
and that brings up a complex issue of how, I guess, in a marriage or relationship, who really gets to say to this child. It brings up ownership. It brings up who really gets to have that conversation, who deserves to have that conversation, who has the authority to have that conversation. And ideally it should be a joint decision. So, but we're making decisions about a thing's body, another human's body. So at that point, we can only make decisions that are for the health of the child and not anything to do with our ego or what we expect of the child or gender, performing sex.
So, but see, I hear your argument really clearly. But it sounds like that's exactly what you would say to him if he said, I wanted to, we got to pick one. And so, but what if he stood on that and he was like, man, my family, they put pressure on me. They really, they like, we got to choose a gender. Like,
so that, and I talked to someone else about this.
Because
those conversations happen before you get married.
Well, let me ask you.
And some people don't have those conversations where they're not like, okay, if we end up in a situation where we're going to have a kid, like, what are our values? Are we aligning with each other? Before we even get in this situation, bring another human in this earth, are we on the same page? And a lot of people are not on the same page.
I agree with you, but I don't think that everybody has this particular conversation because it's not like something that's going to really just happen to everybody, but It could happen to anyone. So, but what if it's hereditary and it comes down in the family, and you don't know about it? Like you say, you don't talk about it. They have their genders fixed when they were babies, and maybe some of them didn't even know. Their parents didn't even tell them. They fixed it and didn't even tell them. And then they have this trait that they pass down, because that's the other part of it I wanted to ask you. So like you said, we got to agree and have, be on the same page. But, your parents are kind of a part of this too, right? Like his mom and his dad and your mom and your dad or whatever. Like, I mean, I think that shouldn't they have a little bit of say too? It's like, this is my grandbaby.
Because that's interesting because I was telling Tana the reason why a lot of children are coming out of these like broken homes and broken families is because I think we left behind the idea of multi-generational raising of children and community raising of children. And at that point, that it would be a community decision if the grandparents were involved and stuff like that. And I think that's more of what we should get to. I was also telling Tanner that I truly believe in I don't necessarily believe in the nuclear family, that, only two people household and this children only gets to interact with the two people. But I really do believe that there needs to be checks and balances when it comes to parenting a child. No one person can have all of the say. There needs to be
too hard. It's way too hard for one person. I think it's way too hard for just two people.
Right.
So I agree with you. And the extended family thing is really our heritage. But it's weird that we've gotten away from it. And that's what I be bringing up all the time, because look how much we pay for daycare and babysitters and stuff like that. You got grandma to help teach the children education.
They're supposed to be teaching lessons, right, and sharing stories, and it's so unfortunate that we've gotten away from that.
Skills.
That like the younger generation right now feels so removed from the older people, their elders, that it's not supposed to be that way.
We all should be in there together, and like I say, and if the village raises the child, then you have this group of people who are all going to care for this child and help in ways in the house, literally be there. Right. Then I think they should have some say in this kind of decision. And I think that's where it should be, because it's a hard decision anyways.
Right.
So if it's just left up to one person, that's tough.
It's too much for one person. Yeah. There needs to be checks. There needs to be differing opinions. I mean, you can't just, I will always believe that you need to have someone who's going to offer a different perspective.
Well, let me ask you this one more question, because this is kind of related to the extended family thing. So the polygamy, were you on the show when we were talking about that?
I don't think I was.
Because the guys were saying, and Deuce is listening, they were saying, you know, they were kind of okay with the polygamy thing, with the guy having multiple wives, man have multiple wives, but all the way not okay with the woman having multiple husbands. And I'm like, I don't, you know, the way I look at it is like, it's not fair to look at it that way and be like, it's okay for men to have multiple wives, but it's not okay for women to have multiple husbands. And also the idea of the village raised the child and the extended family, the polygyny and polygamy argument is really good for that, for economics.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it's okay for men. I say I look at it as it's the same. You know, a man can't expect preferential treatment over the woman, like, because that's just me. Like, I'm not a cheater. I don't believe in that. When I'm with somebody, I'm with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but I'll let Chaka finish.
But it's not cheating if everybody,
If you're in agreement, right?
And y'all are working together in the household, and you're building a household together, and now you got more aunts and uncles and grandmas to take care of the kids and look after the kids and buy them a car when they graduate high school or whatever the hell. You know, we are, what the system has got us doing this whittle away, so that the children have to completely depend on their direct parents for everything. You know what I'm saying? And then it puts a lot of pressure on the parents. That's another reason why people are having fewer children. A lot of people say they don't want to have. What about you? Have y'all talked about it? Or y'all think about having children? Yeah, y'all are no forever, or just no for now?
Forever, pretty much. we just didn't see a reason to bring a child. It's so, especially with me, I had to go to therapy first to make my for sure decision. It took me a little bit, because I was like, I don't want to fuck up.
Sorry, I interrupted.
I don't want to traumatize a child. And so I had to go to therapy, and I was like, then I'll figure it out. And I did. And I was still like, okay, no, I don't think that, I think a lot of people see raising children as a more of an ego thing. And I just know that I would be okay without children. I would be just fine without children. And that I would want to use my free time and help other people with their children. And I would look after my brother's children if he had children, but I don't want children of my own. So I know that I have like 4 dogs and 2 cats. I think I'm good. That's also a generational thing that's happening now, where people are considering their pets to be like their family.
But see, the problem I have with that is that people treat their children like pets, and that's totally not okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
They're doing the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing.
And so, but yeah, the thing about the pets, and then that's what I say. That's why I don't want any pets, is because I got 3 kids. So, you know, I don't, you know, that's what I tell everybody. Like, you know, I already got 3 kids. I don't need another mouth to feed, somebody to look for when they get lost and all kinds of clean up after. I already do that. So, but that's funny though. You say you don't want to have kids, because Anaya says she doesn't really want to have kids. I think she's pretty much going to stick to that too, for at least for a while.
That we're going to be fighting for water. We know that. We know that we're depleting our reservoirs and our aquifers. We know that the UN has already said we're going to have a crisis over water in the future. So it's like, what do I look like wanting to bring a child into that? And on top of that, look at the nation I'm living in, where there aren't enough social support systems like Sweden, like Newfoundland, like Germany, that support families. We don't have that in America. We just got this like tax earned child tax credit not too long ago when parents should have been supported a long time ago, but they're seeing the birth rate is declining and they're trying to incentivize people to have babies. And they know that the reason they're in this situation is because people can't afford to have them and they don't have enough support. So it's catch-22. We got in this situation for a reason.
Go ahead, Thriller. Go ahead. What you want to say?
I think everyone needs. We just need to relax. Okay, listen. I found out something very, very important recently. All right, so think of the flow of the universe being God's will. Now think of that being a river. Now think of a river like splashing over onto land. You know, that there's still an existing energy there, but it's not part of the river anymore. So it's free will, not God's will. But when we die, we go back to the river. And God's not mad at us. God isn't judging us. We go back to the river no matter what. And humans are going to destroy themselves long before God does, you know? So like all these rules and shit with the religious aspect, we need to relax actually, because we have free will at the moment and we return to the river of God's will until it all happens again. It's an anomaly. But I do have to say 20% of the USA's population is getting killed because of abortion. I mean, humans need to think, you know, do we really want that or not? If we do, then whatever.
What's the alternative to that? What do you think the alternative is to?
And I think the end of the end of the world comes when we create this AI consciousness that tries to wipe us out.
Why do you think that?
As far as having kids and stuff, it would be nice to bring your kids along with you. Have a bond, you know, like an unbreakable bond with something. So when you do splash off the river, you're not alone.
Yeah, kids. I just jumped back in, guys. I had to close out all that paperwork on that tire, getting those tires replaced. But you guys were talking about not having kids or having kids.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I have. Well, y'all know I have two, so you know. Honestly, man, it was probably for me, it was like one of the greatest.
How did y'all tell us the story about the conversation you had with your wife? Did y'all have this conversation? I'm sure y'all did.
Well, we had talked about it, but growing up, she had quite a bit of issues, woman issues. So we didn't think that we would ever be able to conceive a child, honestly, if that's the correct word.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we just never even put any thought into it, bro. Like, honestly, we didn't never even put any thought into it. And I remember I just bought my first 18-wheeler, and for some, we had a big blowout argument about something. I think it was about money or something. I don't know, bro. I think she like overspent money, and I had to like take money from a savings account, which I didn't want to do. We had like this big argument, and I came home and I was like in this uproar, and I came home and it was like Valentine's Day, and she kind of surprised me and we went out to eat. It was still like an awkward date. Came home, that happened, and next thing you know, she was pregnant. So,
oh, that's romantic.
Oh, sweet.
But look, what you're saying is your kids are mistakes. Is that what you're saying? Accident.
Well, not really, because I always wanted a kid. You know, growing up, the way I grew up, not having,
Right.
you know, my parents. So it was like for me, I remember always saying like, if I have kids, I'm gonna be the best dad ever. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give them the world. I'm gonna do my best, you know, to sow into them. So it was kind of like for me, it wasn't like a mistake. It was like, dude, when she called me and said that she had done or she had taken 10 pregnancy tests,
Ooh.
and it wasn't the cheap ones, the expensive ones that's
Yeah.
like $20 a pop, and they all came back positive, bro. I was like excited, and the crazy part is I was coming down Grapevine Mountain in California headed to LA when
Mm.
she said it, of all places to be that excited coming down a mountain.
Were you ready? Were you ready
um
at that point?
at that point, I don't really know if I was ready. I was making good money at the time. I was super excited to be a dad. When I finally came in off the road, she had her first doctor's visit at the OBG or whatever. And I just kind of went on the spending spree, bro. Like crib, car seat, stroller, just changing the apartment around, just, you know, all kind of stuff. So but fast forward now, my age where I'm at, you know, I think about it with the issues that we had in our marriage the past couple of years, you know, and trying to, you know, I kind of wonder like, man, should I have waited to, you know, to kind of let where she is kind of in her own lane and has her own career? Should we have waited a little bit more? But it's to me, it's like now I think about that, it's kind of like shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know.
Right. Right.
You know, it's like you're faced with this. You got two amazing kids that make me proud every day. It's like, so anything else in the world I can deal with. You know what I'm saying? Whether I feel like I can or not, you know, I make it happen. So, you know, I continue to work. You know, am I where I want to be right now? Definitely not. You know, am I comfortable? No, but I'm never satisfied either. You know, and not to say that in a negative way. I'm never satisfied because I feel like I'm nowhere near where I dream for my life to be
Mm-hmm.
and my family. So, you know, but to answer your question, Amina, I don't know if I was really truly ready or not. You know, it was like it happened and I was overwhelmed with excitement and joy, and to me it was like the best thing that could ever happen to me, you know. So
And you
uh
went back, as you said, because of how you grew up,
mhm.
and how much having the child meant to you. Would you be able to compare that feeling then and what you feel now?
Yo, this is
Like
kind of off
how much it
subject,
really
but
means to you,
I feel like I
in the
need to say
difference
this.
in how that love evolved as
If you haven't
the
already,
children grew.
look up the Master Key. Type in
Yeah,
Master Key on YouTube
yeah, yeah.
and
Okay.
regain control of your thoughts and just be positive and just get your accomplish your dreams, man. Life is short. Master
Yeah,
Key, Master Key can't go wrong with that.
yeah.
What you gonna say,
The
Deuce?
the yeah. So to answer your question, I still have that excitement. It's like, man, it's a blessing. But there's times, like to be honest with you, as a father, as the head of the household, the lead, there's times that because I'm not where I want to be, I almost wonder if sometimes if I have done my kids a disjustice, am I failing as a father? You know what
Let's
I'm
talk
saying?
about. Let's explore
With
that.
being outside of the home as much as I
Let,
am
let's
because of work.
let's explore that a bit because earlier I don't know you was here, but I don't know if you got to make comments. But we talked about
But that Master
masculinity
Key
and
will
fem.
help you work
Wait, hold on, Thriller.
less but
Ma-
make more.
the masculinity and femininity and like
It's like a cheat code.
the gender
It
roles
was
that
your
they make you
God-given
play.
right.
One at a time. Driller,
Wait, hold
come
on,
on,
Thriller.
man.
The gender roles that
Oh,
they
my
make
bad.
you
Am I talking
play.
over people?
Yeah,
Yes.
hold on.
Oh shit.
The
I'm
the
sorry. I'm in a
gender.
sketchy spot. I keep having to leave and come back.
Okay. The gender roles, Deuce, like, do you feel the pressure, like, you because you're a man, that you have to provide, and given the childhood that you had, you know what I'm saying? and you feel that pressure that you have to conform to society's image of a man to be the provider. You know what I'm saying? And do you think that's what drives you, to drive so much and, to be gone?
No, well, you know, I'm glad you asked that question. I've never looked at it from that perspective. And all honesty, I just went into it always looking at, I never wanted my kids to go through what we went through. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? I never wanted them to, and okay, so yeah, I never wanted them to have the challenges that we had and went through what we went through, with having less than and making fun of because you go to school, your clothes, your shirt dirty, because laundry, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
just, and it's not even so much because I'm not real big on name brand, you know what I'm saying? So it's not even about name brand. It's just being the fact that they can be be well dressed and, and look like they come from somewhere. So that's something that I was always fighting. And then I'll tell you something else. For majority of my life, well, my adulthood life, I have been fighting to be so much different than what my mom and my dad ever was. You know what I'm saying? I feel like there's like this underlying stigma that's on me. I feel like because of the people that they were, those generational curses is the reason why I have to work 10 times harder to prove myself. You know what I'm saying? Like
But but
you
look,
know,
Deuce,
Let,
who are you
let me
proving it
ask.
to? You proving it to yourself?
I don't know if I'm necessarily proving it to myself. Maybe I am, or maybe it's just me being trying to be better than they were. To my children. To be a better father, be a better man. You know what I'm saying? But as far as the society role comes in when I look around and I'm like, you know, we're going back to an apartment where most of my kids' friends are going back to a house
Yeah,
that their parents own.
right.
You know,
It's different.
that's when or when I pull up with my son to practice, and I'm in my little Ford Ranger, and his best friend's dad is at a Ford F-250 lifted up like a monster truck, and
Yeah,
he's like, "Daddy, when are you gonna get a big truck?" You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So that's when that that comes into play. But for the most part, man, like I don't really know. I think the thing with society was that not ever being a statistic, because being a foster kid and being a ward of the state, there's a stigma on you. You're already labeled. They don't expect you to go very far. They expect you to be a menace to society, and then they're going to lock you away because you have all of these mental issues, you have all of this anger. They feed you with a bunch of, pills. Like, dude, when I was in like the group home shelters and them different foster homes, there was kids taking shit that would fucking kill an elephant. And these kids weighed like 30, 40 pounds, 50 pounds, little 5 and 6 years old taking, you know, Adderall and Xanax and all of these other pills, because, people didn't want to deal with them instead of getting to the root cause and talking with them and counseling, and they just put them on drugs, and
Hugs.
I fought that shit, bro. I fought it. Like they
A
tried
lot
to
of those
lock me
kids, a lot
away
of those
and
kids really
everything.
just need hugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up?
Love and attention. Yeah.
News networks are not even getting clicks like that. So this shows like there's an opportunity for this, what we're doing here on this show,